back to our action-packed Torah reading this week called Vayigash, that Yosef, who has been sold into slavery by his brothers because they hated him and they were hoping that he would die, not only did he not die, but it ends up that the whole tables are now turned and he has saved the whole world, including them, Yosef. And they, unbeknownst to themselves, they went down. Yosef is the king of Egypt, and Egypt is the rule of the whole world. And now they have to go down to Egypt to get food because nobody has food. And Yosef starts playing with them, and finally Yosef takes the little brother and says, "I'm going to put him into jail." And Yehuda comes up and he starts yelling, "Don't do it!" And everybody's all agitated and emotional. And they say, "What's going to be with our father? He loves this boy so much. Our father's going to go crazy." And Yosef thinks about his father and then it's about his brother. Everything has been has gone over on him. And Yosef breaks down and admits to his brothers that, "Here I am Yosef." And his brothers couldn't believe it. It would have been just enough if Yosef would have been a servant over there or something and said, "Remember me? You sold me into prison. Here I am." No, not only is Yosef not just coming out from the sidelines or winking at them from behind the chair or something, but Yosef is actually the king of the whole world. So they're all amazed. And that's what we got up to now. Yosef said to his brothers, "I am Yosef. Is my father still alive?" And his brothers couldn't answer him because they were so speechless. They were startled. We talked about this last time. And they thought that maybe he was saying, "It's my father that's alive. He's not your father. If you would have treated him like a father, you wouldn't have thrown me into a pit." So then he says to them afterwards, "I am Yosef, your brother, that you sold me in Egypt." And they know that he's still their brother. So let's take the sentence again. This is where we're beginning today. Yosef said unto his brothers, "Geshuna, come, approach me." And they came close. And then he said, "I am your brother that you sold me into Egypt." Yosef is going to start driving this point home that he really has forgiven them. We're going to see he cries, he kisses them. Rashi says, why did Yosef have to say, "Come close to me, approach me"? And Rashi says he saw them that they were staggering backward. And he said, "Nachshav achai nichlamim. Now my brothers are all shamed." So he called them B'lashon Raka. So he said to them in a very delicate and soft language, "V'tachnunim ve'areh lahem shu mahul." And then it says another thing was that he showed them Yosef. He said, "I want you to come over. I want you to see something." And he showed them that he is circumcised. Okay, now that you might think is pretty strange. I mean, well, come on, what's he going to show him a thing like that for? But the reason we think a thing like that, or anyway, the reason I think like that, is to show us how low we are, although I am. That's what we think. The fact of the matter is that the circumcision is the place, the covenant between the Jews and God. If they want it, if they want to use it properly. If they want to misuse it, they're not. And that's exactly what we're showing them. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at the Kli Ykar. It's a little bit long, but we can do it. Let's go. The Kli Ykar says, "Harel hem shahumul." The Kli Ykar, what's his name? Yehuda Shlomo Milunshitz. He lived at the same time as the Maharal MiPrague, the Maharal MiPrague that made the Golem. He lived in the same time. He was a little bit younger. But they were together in the city of Prague. The one who wrote the Kli Ykar. He showed them, this is what Rashi says, it says in the Gemara, so they showed him that he was circumcised. What does this mean? He wanted to show that his righteousness, that he was being among the Egyptians. The Egyptians were like the most decadent nation in the world, except for the Canaanim. It says they were equal in licentiousness. And lo nichshal, and nevertheless, he did not. Yosef wanted to show them that he did not stumble, did not do any sins. Kibol aramis mashchar laso, because it says that a person has relations, a Jew that has relations with a non-Jew, that's a very not good thing. We also found that the Jewish people were redeemed from Egypt in the merit of four things. What were the merit of the four things? First of all, they didn't change their names. They didn't change their language. They didn't speak negatively about one another. And they separated themselves from forbidden sexual relationships. Also with one another, it says that when they left Egypt, this is their camps, they had the camps. There were millions of Jews, and they kept the tents were at an angle so that no one could look at anybody else's tent by accident. I skipped. That's the reason it's explained in Parshat Shemot. We're going to learn later on. Similarly, he says, I'll explain this later on. But nevertheless, here, Yosef sent after his brothers and his father and his brother to let them know what merit was it that is going to stand for them. What will hold them in this world? And he hinted to them these four things. First of all, he said Yosef hinted at what he said. We're going to see later on also that he was complete in all these four things. What, they didn't change his name, right? What do we say? He didn't change his name. He didn't change his language. He still spoke Hebrew. That they didn't speak negatively about one another, and also that they were chaste in their family relationships. He didn't change his name. That he said, "I am Yosef," right? That's what he went to his brothers. He said, or was this? Ani Yosef. I am Yosef. Right? Yosef means my name is still Yosef, even though that his name was changed by Paro. It was called Safnat Paneach. Nevertheless, he doesn't call himself by that name. He called himself Yosef. That's my name forever. And also, he didn't change his language because he says, "Pi medaber aleichem." Says it is my mouth that is speaking to you. Here it says, "I'm Yosef." Where is this? Where did he say this? Pi medaber aleichem. We'll see this later on. It's a sentence later on. So he says, "It is my mouth that is speaking to you." In other words, you know that I'm speaking to you in Hebrew. Also, he didn't have forbidden sexual relationships. That's why he said that he showed them that he was circumcised. Namely, that he was circumcised. In other words, that he was proud of the fact that that he had not fallen into the same licentiousness as all of the rest of the Egyptian nation. And also, he didn't say any negative things. He wasn't Baal Lashon Hora. He didn't speak negative things because he says, "Come close to me." That's why he said, "Come close to me." Why did he say, "Come close"? Because he wanted to whisper to them what he said over here. "I am Yosef." Here he says, here, next sentence. "Because you sold me, right? You sold me into Egypt. You sold me into Egypt." Here, "I am Yosef, your brother, that you sold me into Egypt." He says it later. He wanted to whisper this to them. Why? Because he didn't want Benjamin to hear it. Benjamin wasn't there with them when they sold him. So therefore, he said, he whispered to them, Benjamin. He didn't want Benjamin, his brother, to hear about the fact that they sold him into captivity. And even to his father, he didn't tell anything. When his father came down, he didn't tell his father, I forgave my brothers. His father would say, "What, you forgive him for what?" "I didn't want to tell you." Well, look, I didn't want to tell you." "Okay, well, I guess you'll find out anyway. You'll find out eventually. Anyway, my brothers sold me into Egypt. Don't see, it came out good." But he didn't do that. He didn't say it to his father. Because if he would have said it, moto now at then he would have said, his father would have said, how do we know he didn't tell his father? Because his father would be Yaakov. He lived 17 years in Egypt, right? Before he passed away, he blessed everybody. And one of the things he said to Yosef, he didn't mention to Yosef, forgive your brothers, come on, your brothers are, he didn't say that. So it must be that he didn't know, he wasn't told. Yosef also said that because Yosef hinted to them, because you sold me into Egypt, so because of that, that's one of the reasons that you're going to be slaves in Egypt. Like it says now, Alte Tatzvu. Now it says later on, we're going to see it right in the end. It said, Alte Atzvu ki macharti oti kehena. It says, don't be sad that you sold me here because I came to save the world. What's he saying? Don't be sad now. Now don't be sad. But in the future, when you go down to Egypt and you're slaves here, you will be sad. Now he's also hinting to them at the future redemption. Namely what? That don't be, on the future redemption. In the future, you will be sad, but alti tatzvu, there's going to be a future redemption, and so you don't have to, Mashiach is going to come, he's redeem everybody, therefore you don't have to be sad permanently. The whole thing, this whole entire story goes around the future redemption with a Mashiach who's going to take all the Jews out of Egypt. Some people say now he's hinting at them at the 10 Harugim Malchus, the 10 Jews that were slaughtered by the Romans, the Tzaddikim. He said, "V'yatzvu, you should be sad. Don't be sad now that you sold me, but eventually you will be sad." With Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Taradion, they were all tortured to death by the Romans, and it says it was a repayment for this terrible sin that they did right here. Terrible sin. We talk about it on Yom Kippur. We talk about the 10 because they were killed at Yom Kippur. Some say they were killed in different Yom Kippurs in different times. Okay, so Yosef is continuing speaking to his brothers. Now, don't be depressed, and it shouldn't be bad in your eyes because you sold me here. Because behold, God sent me here to enliven the whole entire world before you. In other words, I'm also enlivening you, right? Not only should you not be sad, you see, it's a good thing. If you wouldn't have sold me down here, you'd be dead by now, right? You would have died by famine, right? The whole world is nothing to eat. Not now, but you would die soon because there was no food to eat. Because there's already been 7 years of plenty, right? But then there's been 2 years of hunger. And there's waiting for us 5 more years when there's not going to be any harvesting. There's not going to be any more plowing or harvesting. There's already past 2 years of the hunger. Now it says we'll see later on that when Yaakov came in, which is going to be immediately after this, Yaakov, he's going to come down. It says that the famine stopped. And I read one place that after Yaakov died, that the famine resumed again. Anyway, I think it was the Ykar also that said that. But in any case, the famine stopped for this time, but there's been 2 years of famine. God sent me here to make a salvation for the land. There should be something to remain in the land and to save you for a tremendous, and to enliven you for a tremendous saving. Yosef literally saved the whole world. Now, you should know, Yosef continues, you should know that it wasn't you sent me here. You didn't send me down here. True, you had bad thoughts in your mind and everything, but God put those thoughts down in your mind because God sent me here and he made me a av leparo. He made me like an advisor to Paro and a master on all of his house and a ruler on all the land of Egypt. Rashi says, what does it mean? Lachaver lepatron. I am like a friend of his and an advisor. Poor Pat, if you wouldn't have sold me, I wouldn't have been any of those things. Here he says, La'av lepatron yoetz lamelech. an advisor to the king, and I am appointed over his house, and I rule over it, that everything he has for all of the whole nation. I'm the one that gives all the orders. Now, says Yosef, now is the point. Hurry up, bring my father here, tell them that this is what your son Yosef said. Omar ben Yosef. This is what your son Yosef said. God has made me Adon, a master on all of Egypt. Come down to me and do not delay. Do not delay, Rashi. Go up to my father. What does it mean, go up to my father? Go to my father. What does it mean, go up to my father? Alu, go up to my father. So Rashi says the land of Israel is higher than all the other lands. And why should you bring him down quickly? Shalotz te'er yoter, that he shouldn't have any more pain in life, aggravation. Yeshav Beretz Goshen, don't worry, I'm going to bring him. He's going to live in the land of Goshen, and he'll be close to me. And you and your sons and your family and your sheep and your cows and everything that you have, it's all going to be here. It says the Ramban, Yosef knew that his father would not want to live in the land of Israel, in the land of Egypt, because there is the place where the evil king is. So therefore, he sent him, he said, don't worry, you're going to be in the place of Goshen, and you're going to live separate from all the non-Jews, all the other decadent people. And because the Egyptians were very decadent people. And the reason that you and your sons, says you and your sons. Why? Because it's connected to what it said before. You and your sons and everything that you have, right, should all come down here. I'm sorry. It says, right, to come down to me and do not delay. You and your sons and your children, everything should all come down. You'll all be together, and you'll be in your own separate land. And I will provide for you where you are in this land of Goshen, because there's 5 more years of hunger. If you don't come down, perhaps you will become impoverished, you and your house and everything that you have. And now you can see, your eyes have seen, and also the eyes of my brother Benjamin, because my mouth, that's what I was looking for. My mouth is speaking. They were speaking Hebrew. My mouth is speaking to you in Hebrew. And that's one of the merits that the Jewish people got out of Egypt. Your eyes see. Rashi says, with b'chvodi, that me and my greatness, that, and you see that I am your brother, and I am circumcised just like you. And also, pi medaber aleichem, that I'm speaking to you in Hebrew. And the eyes of my brother Benjamin, he made them all together. Benjamin was equal to everyone, to say that just like I don't have any hatred to Benjamin, my brother, because he wasn't one of the brothers that sold him into captivity. He wasn't there when you sold me. Kach in believe Sina, also I don't have any hatred to you either. Tell my father of all my glory that I am here in Egypt, and everything that you've seen, and hurry up and bring my father down here. Why? Why should you hurry? So that he'll be happy to see. Give him a little bit of happiness in life. And he fell on the neck of Benjamin, his brother, and he wept, and Benjamin wept on his neck. Right, so what's going on? Whose neck is whose neck? What's happening? So it says that he wept on the neck of Benjamin. Here it doesn't say tzavare, it says al tzavare, means on the necks. And there's both sides of the neck of Benjamin. Why on the two sides of the necks of Benjamin? Because he wept over the 2 temples which are going to be built in the portion of Benjamin. And in the end, they're going to be destroyed. And Benjamin wept on his neck, only one, on the Mishkan Shiloh. namely on the tabernacle of Shiloh that stood almost as long as the temples did, right? It stood for 369 years. The temple stood for 400 years, 410 years, 20 years. There was going the Shiloh was going to be in the area in Israel of Yosef, and it was also going to get destroyed. And then it got destroyed with Eli and so he kissed all of his brothers. The Rebbe asked the question, why did they weep on each other's? Why didn't Benjamin weep on his own two temples and Yosef on his own? He says because each one of them they didn't weep on their own because they worked with their own personal work to prevent it from being destroyed. But the temple that was in the area of the brother, they couldn't, their work couldn't help, so at least they could cry. So if there's a chance that you can do something by your work, then crying is counterproductive. Maybe a little bit in the beginning, but crying is counterproductive. But if there's a situation that's bad and you would like to change it, but you realize you can't, so then crying is definitely called for. Yosef kissed all of his brothers, he cried over them, and afterwards he spoke, his brothers spoke to him. He said, why did he continue to kiss them? Because they saw that he was crying and their hearts were together with them. He said, the Or HaChaim says like this, maybe they could have thought that he was making this whole big show because he wanted his father to feel good. But really, Livavo Yamaralem, but really he hated them deep down in his heart. Therefore, when they saw that he was hugging them all and that he was kissing because they were leaving him by going back to get their father, so they realized that he was really, truly, sincerely loving them. We'll see that in the end, they still thought that maybe he's going to remember how he sold them. It's going to be... Even though we see that he did weep before, it says Yosef turned around and he wept before, but maybe he was weeping because of the pain that it was in. And also it was because of the surprise of seeing his brothers or whatever. And also because maybe the beginning he was crying just because of Benjamin. He saw Benjamin. But now when he's crying, so they could think, listen, maybe he still hates us and he certainly would be justified to do so. But now when he's kissing everybody, he sees that they really meant it. The voice, it was heard in all of the house of Paro. And everyone said, the brothers of Yosef have come. And it was good in the eyes of Paro and the good in the eyes of the servants. Come up, Beit Paro. In other words, all of the people, it was good. You have to remember, Yosef saved all their lives, right? If it wouldn't be for Yosef, they'd all be dead. So everybody knows that Yosef is a trustworthy person, is not the word, right? If he was an enemy of Egypt, he would have just kept quiet and let everybody die or give bad advice. Everybody saw his advice was really good. Paro said to Yosef, tell your brothers, do like this, load up all of your animals and go to the land of Canaan. Take and bring your father and the whole rest of his household and come to me, and I'll give him the best part of the land of Egypt, and they can eat the fat of the land. Rashi, Eretz Goshen, the best place in Israel, the best place in Egypt, I'm sorry. Fact is that Paro was prophesizing and he didn't know what he was prophesizing. In the end, all of Egypt is going to be emptied out. I will give you every good thing in Egypt. When is that going to be? In another 210 years, when they get out of Egypt. So they're all going to take, and the Jews are going to clean out Egypt. Now do this: take from the land of Egypt wagons for your children and your wives, and bring your father. Take your father and come back here. In other words, Pharaoh was saying, you should say it from that I ordered it. I'm not just bringing it bringing your father down here, it's not just your idea, it's my idea too. You should bring him down. That's what Paro was saying. And don't spare any of the means to bring, because the good of all of Egypt is before you. And the Jewish people did so. One second, 1 minute. Okay. Okay, so Yosef, he gave them this, everybody, now Yosef is really piling it on them. To all of his brothers, he gave new clothes, and to Benjamin, he gave 300 units of silver and 5 changes of clothes. And to his father, he sent to this. And this we can go into, but we haven't got really time to go into, but the Torah does. Tomorrow, God willing, we'll talk about it, I hope. To his father, he sent like this: 10 donkeys filled with all the best of Egypt, 10 female donkeys carrying food and bread, grains and bread for his father, just for the road. And he sent his brothers, and they went. And he said to them, do not argue on the way. Do not argue on the way. What does it mean, do not argue on the way? So Rashi says, don't start getting too involved in Torah ideas, because you'll start arguing, and your guz aleichem aderech, and the way will become confused. You'll take wrong turns. They didn't have any what is a GPS or anything back then. That's one. Number two is don't tirgaz. What does it mean, tirgazu? Don't be over dominant. Don't come into the city with big steps, like you're sort of angry, because then everybody will notice you, right? Yosef is saying everybody will notice you. It doesn't look good. Right? Come calmly into. Don't attract too much attention. Simple meaning is that because the brothers had been shamed, so he was worried that maybe they would start blaming each other on the sale of Yosef. That's what it means, alter gazu b'derech. You were the one that sold him. You were the one that we would have listened to you. And they'll say, each one will say, because of you, we sold him. You told the Lashon Hora, you were the one that said bad things about him, and etc. And this will increase, and then you'll start to hate him again. You'll start to go. You were the one that caused. I'm sorry. You were the one that caused us to hate Yosef. They'll say all these things, and that will just put them into a bad mood when they come in to the land of Israel, to the land of Egypt. Okay, we have a beautiful or Ykar here, but we can't do it. Here he says, Al tirgazu b'derech was das kenim. Don't be afraid. A different interpretation. Don't be afraid of any of the dangers on the road, because I rule over everything. That's what it means. Tirgazu al techto. Tirgazu means to worry. To worry. That's what it is. Okay. They went from Egypt. They went to the land of Canaan. They went to their father, and they told him, Yosef is still alive, and he rules over the whole land of Egypt. Vayafeg libo, but his heart was, how do you say, with them and not with them. He was like skipping, because he didn't believe them. Rashi says that he's the leader. Vayafeg libo, nichlaf libo. His heart was changing, was flipping around, and he believed, and he didn't believe. He didn't listen to really what they were saying. That's what it means. Sometimes it means he changed, his heart was changed. He couldn't believe that all of a sudden he thought he would have been happy just if he would have come back and said, Yosef is alive, he's paralyzed or something, he would still be happy. And they came back and they said, no, not only is he alive, He's functioning. He's the ruler over the whole world. He couldn't believe what it was. So yeah, he said Sforno says that he fainted and his heart jumped a little bit. Like a person when he faints, it's like he sort of dies a little bit. He didn't believe them. Therefore, in the next sentence, it says that he came back to life. And his soul was not lost because he believed. He says, they said everything that Yosef told them to say. And he saw the agalot. When he saw these wagons that Yosef sent to take him back, now all the other stuff Pharaoh sent, but Yosef sent specially the wagons to bring him back. And he said, you're sent, it says, V'techi ruach Yaakov avihem, and Yaakov's spirit came back to him. It says, Simon Masar lehem. What does it mean? He saw the words of Yosef. When he saw the words of Yosef, what words of Yosef? Said Yosef, before he went to look for his brothers, it says, Kishapirish Mimeno, Yosef, before he went to look for his brothers, and then his brothers saw him and they sold him, they threw him into a pit, etc. Said he was talking to Yaakov about the law of the Egla Arufa. Now, the Egla Arufa is a person that leaves a city and they find him dead, and no one accompanied him from the city. They find him dead, and they don't know, so they hold the city responsible, and the city has to bring whichever city is the closest to the dead person. It brings a cow, and it brings the donkey, and they break its neck. I'm sorry. They bring a young calf. I'm sorry, I'm just tired a little bit. A young calf, Egla. They bring a young calf, and they break its neck, Arufa. That's the law. So Yosef obviously was a person that left the city, and he was unattended, and now he's gone. And that's the law that we're talking about. So now if he sends him back, he said agalot. Agalot is the same word as Egla. Agla. So he said, but mainly he saw Yarat the agalot that Yosef sent, and it doesn't say the agalot that Paro sent, as Sharta love that all of a sudden the Shekhinah came back to him, that had been God's presence came back to him, that had not been with him before. So now Yaakov is, it says that again, he saw the Agalot, his spirit came back to him. What does it mean? That when he saw these wagons, his spirit came back to him and he believed, because before Yosef told everyone not to send any wagons out of the land of Egypt. Shouldn't take any wagons from Egypt. So wagons never left. And now Paro said, take agalot, which other people don't have the permission to do. So we saw that these wagons left completely against the law of Egypt. Everybody knew the law of Egypt. Wagons didn't go out. You wanted to take something out, you took it with a donkey like they did before, and you took bushels. Therefore, when he saw the agalot that Yosef sent, so he believed that Yosef was really the king over Egypt. Paro changed the law just for him. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. What is this? Oh, what is the name Tzafnat Paneach? There's a lot of different meanings, but Tzafnat is from the word of Tzafon. Tzafun means concealed. And Paneach means to explain. Paneach means to explain things, to explain like a riddle, or a thing that's hard to understand. Mefaneach means to explain hidden things. So he called him his name Tzafnas Paneach, that he explains, Paneach explains, Tzafna, that what is concealed, what is hidden. There's other explanations also, but that's the main explanation. So that was the name that Paro gave to Yosef, the one who explains all hidden things, because he explained his dream and explained it in a way that saved the whole world. Okay, everyone, have a good day. God willing, tomorrow at 8:15. See you all with Mashiach now.